Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
All right, I ask you, members of the Morning Majority, are you ready to join us in a battle that is worthy, a cause that is great? Well, have you heard the story about what Fairfax County is doing to one guy over there who, before he went off for deployment to the military, promised his sons that when he came back, he would build them a treehouse in the yard? And he followed the process. He called the building code people, said, do I need some kind of standards? And they said, no, you don't. Build the treehouse, man. Knock yourself out. It turns out he didn't check with the planning and zoning people. And in Fairfax County, if you live on a corner lot, they consider both of the sides of your property that face the street to be front yards. And they said, after he got the thing built, it had to be torn down. Mark Grapin is on the line now to tell us about his ordeal. So, did I have the basic facts right?
Brian, you got it down pretty well.
All right. So, where are you in the battle now to save the treehouse?
Literally waiting for the 30th of November, and that's the request for the rehearing. They granted the request to rehear and reconsider, and what I'm hoping for is we can present some arguments that we failed to present perhaps on the 21st of September and see if we can persuade the board.
All right. And if not, you have to what? Have the thing torn down?
Well, I'm not sure what the appeal process is beyond that. I mean, I guess ultimately go to the Supreme Court, but let's keep this.
Are you willing to fight it that far?
Well, I mean, at some point the attorney's fees are going to dwarf the mortgage of the house.
Right.
So, no, I mean the real house. So we've got to keep this in perspective. You play by the rules. You chase the rabbit down the hole as far as you can, and at the end of the day, if the demise of the home is what the order of the land is, then that's what we have to do.
What did the county say when you told them that you called and they said, yeah, knock yourself out, go build the treehouse? I mean, how do they explain that you were given the okay, at least a verbal okay from somebody within the county, and now they're saying, hey, you got to take this thing down?
Well, county governments are like every other government agency. There's no auto connectivity between the offices. Now, while that's frustrating for the average citizen, you know, it's swinging a hammer on anything that they're working on. It's for the county employees. It's got to be just as frustrating that there are other offices I know this person must communicate with. I just have no idea what those other offices are, or whether this person has to call that office. So you got to put yourself in that person's shoes. I don't fault. You know, the county's a big institution. It makes it sound like a David and Goliath story, and I'm wailing against the man. But at the end of the day, it's 11,000 individual peoples that are trying to do their best job for the county, and we just didn't connect all the dots. And some percentage, however significant that is mine.
So what happened? Did they just drive around the neighborhood and say, hey, how'd that treehouse get there? That has to come down. Or did somebody in your neighborhood complain?
Did somebody drop a dime on you?
That they didn't like the treehouse in your yard?
The latter. As a matter of fact, the county's very careful with spilling information. If they promise anonymity in a process, I'm glad to know that indeed they keep their end of the bargain. However, the ladies in the office perhaps intimated that this might have been somebody that might not even live in the neighborhood, that just has an awful lot of time on their hands, that just makes a hobby of driving around.
Golly.
But,
so this will be the second hearing, right, for a variance that would sort of give you the right to keep this up, right?
Right. The first one, I don't know all the language, and I don't want to paint a picture that poor pitiful me. I'm not an attorney, and I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express. But there's variance at play, and the essence of what it is, there are rules that say, you know, don't junk up your front yard. Well,
right.
When you live on a corner lot, you have two front yards. I'm pretty blessed in that regard, and 2 front yards. Who would have known? And but you don't want a lot of junk in the front yard, and you certainly don't want to hide the house and the value of the house, the consistency of the neighborhood, and so these rules are put in place.
Well,
I'm asking for a narrow exception to that policy, not a change in the law.
Right.
And we have to keep this in perspective. I'm not railing against the system. And that's what I'm seeking is just that narrow exception.
Have you thought about hippie style handcuffing yourself to the tree? You know how they do that when they don't want them torn down? Because
I'll be there with you, man.
I volunteer for that.
I join you.
Well, first of all, my haircut kind of negates that.
You got to grow it out a little.
Well, yeah, and it's the whole the beard thing, the commune thing. And I'll retire back to California one day, I suppose. My wife's parents still live there. But, handcuff thing has merits here. I might consider that. But,
I was going to ask, what are your sons taking from this?
Yeah.
Well, there's obvious sadness. They're a little on the sad side of pragmatic about it. As a matter of fact, they're both sitting here with me. We're headed downtown. They're pragmatic about it. At the end of the day, if the tree has to come down, the blow's been softened by virtue of the calendar having flipped by on this one. So it's not that they didn't have notice. None of us have the heart to actually do it ourselves, if indeed that's the case. However, let's stick with glass half full on this, and it's been. We got to bear in mind, not to wax too philosophical, but my boys watch me as your children watch you, and how you react to adversity. It's important for them. What imprint do we want to leave on them, and how do we want them to behave when we need our food prepared for us? And so that's what I'm trying to make sure that I step in. I step in a lot of things, but those are the footsteps that I'm trying to follow here. Is what lessons do I want Eric and Sean to take with them as they grow up and they raise their own children? How do I want them to react to the government? And handcuffing certainly has merits. Peaceful demonstration. In all seriousness, Martin Luther King left us some important lessons, but there is a prescribed process. That's an important lesson to follow. You live within the bounds of the government of the jurisdiction in which you live.
Yeah,
or you cause it to be changed.
But Mark, you did your best. You did your best. How are you to know that in Fairfax County they consider your side yard a front yard? I mean, how are you supposed to know that? You did what you thought was right. You built a wonderful, good-looking treehouse, which, by the way, I like because it respects the tree, built around the tree, not into the tree. Awesome. So you're trying to do something for your kids. You're trying to live up to a promise that you made to them, and these faceless, nameless bureaucrats come crashing down. Well, I think, and I said yesterday, it's time to put the fair back in Fairfax. And there's an easy way that you can let members of the morning majority can let people know how they feel, because they got a very easy number to remember over at Fairfax County, 703 Fairfax. Tell them you want to save the treehouse. That's what I think we should do.
Well, thanks, Brian. I really appreciate the support. I turned around the numbers on the days on the 21st of September, outnumbered everybody in the audience, in the auditorium. I could hear my own voice echoing around, and the voices of my sons when they spoke. And at the end of the day, what I'm kind of hoping for is a little friendly support in the audience on the 30th of November. Let the board members see that indeed the neighborhood. And the neighbors in the community are supportive of this, that this is, the anonymous complainer who has yet to step forward. But the anonymous complainer is in the gross minority on this. One of the community is in support of this. Come on, this isn't such a bad thing. By the way, come on over to the house and go down the slide if you want.
All right, Mark. Well, we wish you and your sons the best, and we hope to hear a good update when this hearing comes around.